I hope you guys all had a great start to the semester. Today we have 6 guest speakers. They're all alumni, and they are ready to, answer your questions and, get rid of your fears about nursing school. So first, we're going to do announcements, just general housekeeping, and then afterwards we'll be doing breakout rooms. So we'll be breaking up the guest speakers into different rooms along with the board members and the members, of course. So that way we can play a little icebreaker game. And then also you can get to know your guest speakers and board members more. So be ready with your questions. All right, so we're going to get started. So Jules, go ahead.
Okay, let me share my screen. All right. So for the first announcement, we have board elections coming up, and for anyone who's running, just make sure that you are a paying member for NSA and NSNA, but you do not have to be a nursing major. Last year's VP was actually a public health major. So all you need to do is make sure you fill out this board application. There's a QR code for you guys, and then submit a video, like a speech, no longer than 5 minutes, introducing yourself and explaining what you plan for NSA or what you want for the club. Just make sure to complete that application and send in that video to Tina. So I have her email right here by no later than the end of the day on February 28th. And if you're interested in looking at the different roles and seeing which ones you're interested in, here's another QR code for those roles and the responsibilities for those people. And then so the College of Health and Human Development, which is what nursing is under, we have a peer mentor program, and I know that we're still looking for some mentees, so be sure to sign up. There's more information at that QR code right there, but I really recommend it. I was a mentee last semester, and my mentor provided me with a lot of resources, support, encouragement, and some tips, so I really recommend it. So there's that QR code for you guys.
All right, hey guys, I'm Brittany. I'm your membership director. So on this slide, you can see that we're starting an Nsa Intern Committee. So what we can do is you can apply to shadow one of our board positions just to see what it's like to be on NSA board. And if you're interested in running for a position, this is a great way of starting to learn all the ropes, and you'll be invited to our monthly board meetings, help with some club responsibilities, and give us input on how we can do better. And the application is due on February 24th at 8 p.m. And the QR code is there, but we will also be setting the link in the chat. Next slide, please. Okay, so next on this list is my favorite part of the club, which is service. We currently have 15 volunteer opportunities for you guys to earn hours. And I bolded all the ones that are pretty easy and they take the least amount of time. So we highly recommend that you guys take advantage of these virtual hours to increase your NSA hours. And there's 2 different spreadsheets, and we'll be setting the links in the chat. Next slide. Okay, so for this slide, Harmony and I, which she's the activities director, we updated a whole new spreadsheet to make your experience of finding info about each volunteer event. So from this screenshot, you can see that we provided the where's and when's with important links, the submission details, any deadlines, what you have to do to earn hours, and then how to obtain the hours. So we're really proud of the spreadsheet, so please utilize it well and then earn these hours. Next slide. Okay, and for this one, I wanted to touch upon one particular volunteer opportunity. And on Tuesday, February 23rd, Dr. Teo, which is the nurse coach, will be presenting about self-acupuncture as part of the Robust Aging Program's monthly talks. So this is a super easy way to earn hours, and make sure you guys check it out on our spreadsheet. Next slide. Okay, and this slide is super duper important for anyone graduating this year. The deadline to earn all NSA hours for 2021 grads is March 15th, and we've been promoting this date for months now, so you guys should know already, and there will be no exceptions. And this is all to all of the graduates. Next slide. Okay, and my last slide is to inform everyone that the members of our club have accumulated nearly 890 hours, and this includes everyone's hours from this year as well as the current members' previous hours from the years before. So great job, guys. And as a reminder, please have your cameras on for the rest of the meeting, especially if you are wearing red for hours. Thank you. And that's it for me.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michaela. If we haven't met, I'm the Secretary Treasurer. I'm just going to remind you guys that we do have our nursing pins now available for purchase. I put the link to this Eventbrite page in the chat already. So if you're wanting to buy a pin, it is $10 for the pin. It's custom. Tina created it, so thank you. And I just want to say it once so everyone hears it. This is a firm deadline. You cannot get a pin by May if you do not purchase your pin by February 24th. So we will not be ordering extra. We will not have backup. We are ordering exactly what is purchased. So please, if you're wanting one, place that order. Like I said, the link for purchase is already in the chat. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Harmony. I'm the Activities Director. So we're going to be doing a quick Valentine's icebreaker called Swipe Right, Swipe Left. So it's kind of like, instead of saying yes or no to various topics that we're going to bring up, if you agree yes to the topic, you're going to say swipe right. And if you're like no to that option, you're going to say swipe left. Tina has already put us all into breakout rooms, so we'll get to know each other through those rooms.
Okay, this is just a little explanation. I'm actually assigning the rooms right now, making sure each group has board members because they have the list. They should be in the group me. So just hang on for a little bit.
Does anyone have any questions about anything? Because I know the deadline for ours is coming up. Is everyone on track, especially those that are graduating? Any questions about like the board application? Is that process clear? I know Julie has mentioned that since we are completely virtual, we ask that if you are interested in becoming a board member for this upcoming year, that you submit a short video of yourself and, you talk about like what your vision is for NSA and why we should choose you for whatever role that you're running for. And then you could send it to my email. The deadline for hours, it will be March 15th. So make sure to get your hours in before then, because then literally the next day I will be ordering the cords. So I need to have the final number of people who are eligible to get a cord so that way I can place the order the next day.
All right, I think I will be opening them.
Why? Yeah, Julia, how would it work with swipe left and swipe right?
Do you have the question?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm popping in to the breakout rooms to make sure everyone knows. So there are two options. So the first one is like flowers or teddy bears. And then if you like one more than the other, for example, I like flowers more than teddy bears, like receiving them. So I would say swipe right for flowers because like on Twitter, that's a yes. And then I will swipe left on teddy bears because I don't really prefer those. And then you guys just keep going.
All right. That makes more sense. Thanks.
All right. Pop in, make sure everyone knows.
All right.
Got it. So you can, I would say, since we're going categories, like, would you swipe right on, meaning yes, on a flower or on teddy bears?
I'll say a flower for me personally because I like, I don't know if this is superficial, but I like aesthetic. I literally just got flowers from a friend a few days ago, just as like a, like, you know, thanks for being a frontliner thing.
Yeah.
I like, you know, it's like aromatherapy, I guess you could say.
Oh,
for
sure.
me, like, I don't really use stuffed animals. I don't know if that sounds
No,
mean. I personally don't. So
Oh,
that's
100%.
my opinion. I'd rather have space on my bed for pillows than stuffed animals.
I'm for sure swiping right on flowers.
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 Swipe right on flowers. Yep.
Flowers.
All right. Okay. So we're all in agreement. Now here's a color choice. Would you swipe right on
Left.
Left.
right?
You guys doing well? Because I don't know if the icebreaker instructions were a little bit confusing.
Yeah, we're kind of rolling with it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and then we're going to be pretty opposite for this other one. So written notes, I would swipe right.
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 Left.
Kylan, why do you prefer?
Hours long or whatever, and it's just too much.
Sometimes what I do, actually most of the time, I'll make like a study guide. So I'll have like however long it is, like 10, 20 pages, and then I'll print it out. And then I'll go back and like rewrite like little side notes on the study guide. And then that way I have like all the information down.
I used to do that, but ink is expensive. So
I live at like a student apartment complex, and the office is super nice, and they love to have residents come in and ask for stuff. So they have a big printer, and I just go in there and print everything I need. So it's nice.
Okay, you guys got the instructions fine because some of the groups were a little bit confused.
Yeah, we kind of just took our own little take on it, but I think we did good.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a different group.
Love, I think it's five love languages. Yeah, I'm just adding in there to spice it up. Would you guys rather do quality time or receive gifts? Who wants to go first?
I could go first.
Okay.
I would say swipe right on quality time and left on receiving gifts. I just feel like being with your significant other is like important and just spending time with them. Because receiving gift, that's just like a one-time thing, like just in the moment. And like quality time, you could spend like the whole day with them.
Yeah, I'm so into like the 5 love languages. I love it. So one of mine is quality time, and like my least one is gifts.
Same.
I'll do it. No, Malia, I don't like gifts. I'd rather get quality time because I feel like you usually get a gift when someone's saying sorry or something is going on. There's like an alternative motive, and I feel like when you're having quality time is quality time. So I'll go for quality time. So I write on the quality time, and then left on gifts.
I swipe right on the quality time and left on receiving gifts because you can't really replace quality time with receiving gifts. Like spending time with your significant other is very important, and like it creates like bonding opportunities, and well, gifts, you can't get anything out of it.
I agree with Jasmine because right now my significant other is away, so we're not going to be spending Valentine's Day together, which sucks. But he's going to be sending me a gift, but I'd rather him be here. So definitely quality time over gifts.
Yeah, same. I think I'm gonna swipe right on quality time too. Even though I like giving gifts to other people, I feel like even with friends, quality time is something that I really miss, especially since COVID. So
Hi. Are people leaving the breakout rooms? Okay, I'll probably end them right now. And then we'll continue. I think so. I think everyone's done. I'll check in with the other groups, but I think you guys could leave when you're ready.
Okay.
Alrighty. I put a little bit too long of a time for the breakout rooms. So if you guys are ready to leave, you guys could just go back to the main room.
Different ICUs and we kind of just like float throughout all of them. So we have like a medical ICU, like some neuro. But then with COVID, it was like everything was almost COVID ICU. Things are kind of settling down a little bit now, but
That's what I've heard. I heard it was pretty hectic for a while, and then now it's finally starting to go back, which is good.
Alrighty. I think I'm gonna close the breakout rooms because a lot of the groups were done pretty quickly, and then we'll start with the panel.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Okay, I think everyone's back. So next we're gonna be doing the alumni panel. I'm just gonna show you guys their info really quick. Alrighty, so we have Alyssa, Monica, Kaylin, Vanessa, Sean, and Angelica, and they're all alumni, and they were actually on board last year. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to just unmute yourself. But first, can I have the guest speakers introduce yourselves, like maybe what board position you had last year and what unit you're currently working on?
Okay, I can go first. Hi guys, I'm Alyssa. I just graduated this past May. I was the president last year of NSA, and right now I work at Long Beach Memorial and I'm in the float unit, but I am currently assigned on the neuro ortho wound unit.
My name's Angelica. I graduated in May of last year. I was the BLS training program coordinator, I think. And the year before that, I was convention chair. I work at Mission Hospital in the cardiac ICU. And for the past few months, it was the COVID ICU, but now we're going back to just like non-COVID.
Hi everyone. Oh, so sorry. Go for it. Okay. Hi everyone. My name's Sean. I also graduated in May of last year. I was the scholarship chair for NSA for last year, and I'm currently working on the neuro ICU at USC Keck.
My name is Monica Bowman. I also graduated May of 2020. I just got hired at Sharp Grossmont down in San Diego. I've been there about a month and a half now on their COVID step-down unit. We're currently transitioning back to our regular ortho-tele unit though.
My name is Vanessa, and I also graduated with everybody in May 2020. And now I work at Los Alamitos Medical Center in their telemetry stroke unit, which also served as their DOU for a while. And I do periop in an outpatient clinic associated with St. Jude's.
My name's Kaylin. I also graduated with everyone in May. I work at Eisenhower Health. It's in Rancho Mirage, which is like Palm Springs area. And then I work in the ICUs that we have. We all like float throughout all of our ICUs. So we have a cardiac ICU, neuro, medical ICU. And then like, just like everybody, like mostly all of our ICUs were COVID up until just like this week. So now we're gonna start transitioning back to our normal units again.
I have a question. So as well, COVID happened, but do you think your schooling, like our nursing school, prepared you enough or just a little bit for the jobs you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it taught me like basic nursing stuff, but it's so different when you're actually the nurse. Because when you're there as a student, you're not really doing anything. Like we all like to think, oh yeah, like I did this for a patient, all this stuff. But it's like, it's so different when you're actually the nurse and like you're making the decisions. And a lot of the stuff I've learned, it has been like during my orientation. I just got off orientation like 3 weeks ago. So I've been on my own for 3 weeks now. And it's like, it prepared me with like basic knowledge and like stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff I learned was during my orientation. But yeah, like nursing school gives you like the basics. It gives you your degree. So it was helpful to as much as it could be.
Yeah, I felt like I knew a lot more than I like thought I did when I graduated. Especially like I knew that I wanted to go into critical care. So then my preceptorship was on like a critical care unit. Even though it was at a smaller hospital, like during that rotation, I was super focused on like trying to learn as much as possible and like see some of the devices and like get a lot of hands-on. So obviously like yeah, there was still a ton of stuff that I'd never seen before or like never heard of, but I was like actually really surprised with how well our school prepared us and like how much knowledge I did have. So like, especially if you're interested in a specialty, like really talk to the nurses and like see how much like they will let you do because it's really helpful if like that's what you want to go into. It'll give you like a little bit more confidence when you are like working as a nurse.
Just jumping off of that, I feel like, I mean, I agree 100% with both of what's already been said. But I also really appreciated how with the various clinicals that we've had, like especially getting closer to critical care or preceptorship, especially, there's like a focus on nailing down time management. And I feel like just in general, that was a really good skill to learn because no matter where you're going, no matter what specialty you need to go into, like that's such a key thing to learn. And so sort of like in that broad sense, because like Angelica was saying, like nursing school, especially Fullerton, will give you a good foundation, a good base. But especially if you want to go into a specialty, they will, once you get hired somewhere, they will train you specifically for that specialty. So you won't like stop learning, and Fullerton won't necessarily take you into that specialty all the way because that's not what we're meant to do anyway. So don't worry, you'll still have time. You'll learn things. I had like 4 months of training, and they really, helped me establish my skills for this specific specialty. But I would say nursing school, especially Fullerton, I felt like it provided a good base. So you got this.
I see a question in the chat for people who didn't go into the ICU or ED and you're on med-surg or COVID clinics. I wouldn't use the verbiage of stuck on med-surg. I think that kind of, it takes away from how much you can actually learn on a med-surg unit just because you do get down a lot of basics of what a routine is like, actually working in everything. COVID clinics are different. I don't know what that is. But I think that anything that you can learn while wherever you are is going to help you when you start working. And I mean, your situation is what it is, and they're not going to throw you in there without proper training. Once you actually start working, people will precept you, your unit will help you. There are people that you can go to for resource and everything. Oh, COVID vaccination clinics. Well, IMs are always fun to give, so there's that. Even like the clerical work of COVID clinics, like charting and everything. Charting is an essential part of nursing, and it takes a lot to learn. So, I mean, anything that you can learn is going to help you later. Sorry that this sucks.
I mean, and that's the good thing about like if you do want to go into a specialty, that's why they have all the like new grad residencies now, which like almost all specialties, it's like a precepted period. Like mine was 12 weeks. So it's like my preceptor was like expecting that I didn't really know anything like specific to critical care. So it's like, although it was good that we had some of those experiences, these programs are designed where it's like they don't expect you to know everything, and they're like really willing to teach you, which is what makes the like all the residency programs so great.
I just had a question about the question. Prepare as in what way? Like prepare to be a nurse, prepare to like apply to jobs, prepare for the interview? Because I feel like if you're preparing just in general to be a nurse, it doesn't really matter, like, yeah, like what everyone was saying, what you had your like preceptorship on, because you learn the most through like your training when you actually do become a nurse.
I have a question kind of stemming off of that. So because you guys, a lot of you are in specialties, how did it go when you were applying? Did you apply only to those specialties because you just knew you had an affinity for them? Did you apply everywhere? Like, I'm just curious because, you know, I know that the mentality of you have to start on med-surg has completely gone away, but I'm just wondering how you guys went about getting your specialty units.
Well, when I was applying, I knew I wanted ICU because I had my preceptorship on the cardiac ICU admission and I really liked it. So I told myself for like the first round of applications, which was like for the like summer to early fall like cohort beginning, I would like apply only to ICU jobs, and then I would see like how far that would get me. And if I didn't get any jobs during that first round, I would start applying to like every unit. But I got the ICU for that first round, so like I didn't have to apply to all the units. But sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Just like how you go about applying for that specialty.
Okay. I geared my cover letters because a lot of the applications required cover letters, and I geared it specifically to like the unit I wanted. And I don't know. And like I think for my resume too, like the only ICU thing I had on my resume was my preceptorship. And so in my cover letter, I just mentioned that a little bit. I mentioned being like a BLS instructor. You just want to mention like things about yourself. It doesn't have to be like all in the specialty that you want, but just making your cover letter kind of attractive to like what the hiring directors would want, and just showing your personality and like kind of your accomplishments that you've had. And then also like having like a succinct resume. Mine was only 1 page. I know some people like do like 2-pagers, but I kept mine 1 page. And just like I was picky for that first round of applications because I wanted the ICU. But if you feel like you kind of like don't have a specialty that you really want, you could apply broadly. But I knew I wanted ICU, so I was very adamant in applying to those jobs and like getting that unit that I wanted.
And just bouncing right off of that, it's a really good question. And I know I really appreciated a lot of the folks in my cohort that would share different opportunities or new grad program, like application dates when they would open, the website links, and sort of the time period to sort of keep on top of that. Like we were all trying to just help each other get through that whole application season. And so with that, it helped everything stay a little bit more organized. And a lot of times on those new grad program like application websites, they'll be able to sort of direct you to, okay, click here if you want to apply specifically to telemetry units, here if you want to apply specifically to ICUs. So sometimes they'll break it down, and I've seen some hospitals break it down by floor. So that way you can also send specific applications towards floors. I think UCI does it that way, and a few others. But a lot of times if it's just an overall new grad program application, then like Angelica was talking about, you can sort of let them know through your cover letter and how you organize your resume that this is the area that you want to be in. But stay willing to be open to whatever they want to interview for you for. At least that's how I was for at the beginning. I would say, this is what I want, but if you want to interview me for something else, because that's what you have available, I'm just happy to get an interview. So, but same thing, I was in that first round, really heavily like, okay, ICU is my dream. That's where I want to be. But as we were getting closer to like July, August, if I had gone through that without like an ICU offer, I would start thinking, let me broaden my applications to other places and then move up from there. So, but you do have time. Don't feel like insanely rushed. You've got time. Take your time with it. Perfect your resume. Show it to other people. All that jazz.
Yeah, I was being pretty stubborn too, and like I knew that I wanted to go into the ICU, and like it came to a point like in August, like I was getting really discouraged because I wasn't like hearing back, and I was like, I'm like done. Like I'm gonna just start applying to like random places, like not magnet, like all this stuff, which is fine, like wherever you can get a job, you know. But I think you also, if you're super adamant about like you know what you want, like kind of stick it out for a little bit, because especially like with how crazy it was with COVID and like places not hiring, like our cohort like had a lot of luck even like come January, all that stuff. So it's like if you're in a position where you can wait, or like don't necessarily sign a contract or something like that if you know you want to be in a specialty, and just kind of stick it out and be a little stubborn. And like I'm not gonna lie, the places that I got interviews for, like for the specialties, like for ICU, like I had a connection. Like I was a good student. I thought that my resume was like pretty good, but like you kind of need a connection too, especially like specialties are hard to get into and everybody wants to do it. So like if you have a good clinical instructor that like knows how you work and like you want to work where they work, something like that, like definitely network. It's super big deal. And like you don't realize how important it actually is until like you get that interview because of like somebody that gave your like application to the director. And it's not to say that like you're not qualified without like having somebody like that, but there's just so many people applying to jobs that like if you have somebody that's willing to go to bat for you and like pull your resume out, that's super helpful. So I would like really push the networking thing.
To bounce off of what Kaylin was saying, especially in our last semester or like our last year, like being able to focus on the networking, and because mostly as students we're on day shift, that's kind of when you'll be exposed to management and seeing the nurse managers on the units that you're rotating on. So I think it's important to, you know, if you find a good preceptor, especially who you network with, and eventually they're more than likely write you a letter back to the organization if you're interested in working there. So I know like even at the beginning, like as a like first few semesters, like we may not really focus on that. But like I've had a friend who in her peds rotation, she got the phone number of like one nurse, and then they were able to get her an interview for NICU. And like peds and like NICU are like super hard to get interviews for, especially now, like especially if you want to work at places like CHOC or CHLA, like stuff like that's really valuable, even if it seems so minute or if you meet someone once. But like the nursing culture, we're more than willing to help out aspiring students, aspiring new grads, especially now, you know, so it may seem not like much, but every little encounter is like super important. And then also like even then, just even if it feels like you're not doing anything, just it'll be helpful.
Yeah, just to add one more thing onto the job application process, it from somebody who literally just got hired, it took me until December to get a job offer. I work in like med surg step down right now, but my dream is ED. I didn't get offers for ED until 3 weeks after I started my med surg job. So if I had waited 3 more weeks, I would have started in the specialty that I wanted to, which is kind of a bummer. But I know it's going to be really tempting to just take the first job that they offer you. And I don't regret my decision at all. It's a great unit that I'm on. I'm just saying that if you are really adamant about going into a specialty, you will find it eventually. It might take a year. That's totally fine, but you will find a job. So I wouldn't really worry about it.
Oh, and then also, sorry, I forgot to mention earlier, even if you get an interview for a specific area, if it's not what you want, sometimes most organizations will more than likely do like a transitional cohort from internal employees. Like for instance, I've been on telemetry for like 8 months, and my managers reached out to me saying if I wanted to transfer to DOU or ICU, I can if I wanted to, like in a few months, because they'll do probably like a spring and what's it called, like a winter cohort. So even if you accept a job for a certain specialty or general area, med surg, whichever one, you, like Monica said, you will learn skill sets, time management, even if it's not what you want at first, but just stick it out for a few months, like what we've all been saying. And then that opportunity will present itself more than likely. And even then, if your managers, when you interview, if you show that you're committed to them and your organization, then they'll consider like what you want. Like if you say in your cover letter, you want ICU or NICU or whatever, they'll keep that in mind. And if they're aware that there's like an opening, they may reach out to you. So just keep that in mind too.
I saw in the chat, Jacqueline asked a question of how was the transition as a new grad nurse in a pandemic, like finding a job and everything with COVID? That's a good question. It was, it was interesting because we were looking up those like new grad applications only for them to find out like they would be canceled or postponed. And so it was just a lot of trying to keep up with dates and everything. And so my hope is these hospitals have had a year to deal with COVID. So hopefully, and praying that these numbers keep going down so that they can start maybe hiring more people in, or they realize they need more people. Anyway, my hope is that some of these hospitals can sort of nail down better when their dates of applications are, because I know for us during that transition, it was interesting because I'd be, you know, spending a while getting UCLA specifically their like cover letter and resume already, only for them to never open until December. Anyway, I'm not still pissed about that. Just kidding. No, but just keep an eye on the dates. They'll most likely update. And something that really helped me was being on like the RN New Grad Facebook page, because there's a lot of people, like there's one specifically for Southern California, and there's a lot of people that would have the same questions as me. And I would just see people update and then follow different threads of like, has anyone seen this? Did anyone try this? All Nurses is a good forum too, because you can find people talking about like, did you apply to this? Where did you send this application? Is this opening? So just trying to keep tabs of all of that. I feel like I was kind of a maniac for all of that. I was just, anyway, all good. It all worked out. It was a bit stressful, but it's really good now. I might defer part of that question to other folks. Where I've worked, we haven't, like our hospital doesn't have an ED, so we haven't been hit quite as hard with COVID. We still had some COVID patients, but on my floor, I had like 3 of our 14 beds were COVID positive, like specifically, but I know other folks have been hit a lot harder. So in terms of transitioning during that period, I would defer that to other alumni.
So to speak about all the experience as a new grad with COVID, the end of my orientation, we were actually hit with COVID pretty hard, and it was all on the 4th floor. So we started closing down all the units and making them into COVID units. And right off orientation, my first shift was in COVID, and I've never had a COVID orientation day. So for me, it was different, but it wasn't extremely difficult because I think the staff on that I work with is very, very helpful. I was able to ask like so many questions, and even discharging or just all these new medications I had to give and I had no idea about them. I'd say just ask, because for us at my hospital, COVID policy changes every day. If visitors can come, like what time we have to do all the EPI checks, it's pretty much different every day on the COVID unit. But just try to ask questions. That's pretty much all you can do.
And for my hospital, we originally had we changed our same day care unit into the COVID ICU, and that had like 14 beds. And then when COVID started getting really bad, like early this year, that's when my cardiac ICU unit became all COVID. But when I started orientation in September, I started orientation on day shift, and we didn't have any COVID patients on the CICU. And then I went to night shift, and it was like half the unit was COVID and half wasn't. And they tried to keep me away from the COVID patients, but then like it all, like the whole unit became COVID, so I couldn't escape it. And so I had like a few more weeks in orientation on night shift with the COVID patients, and then I was on my own. But it's like, I feel like the hardest thing was just like working with the whole PPE thing, like making sure you have everything before you go into the room. A lot of the patients were like all the same. When we would give report to each other, it's just like, yeah, it's just COVID patient came in, like they all had the same story. And they were all like just really, really sick, but they were stable, like at the baseline they were at. So it wasn't like all the patients were crashing at like random times, but it was just like a different kind of, they just all had really bad O2 stats, and like they just were on these vent settings that are like not good for the patient, but they were like stable at that level. But yeah, I just asked a ton of questions. I was glad I got a few weeks on orientation with the COVID patients before I went on my own. But that's kind of how my transition was. And then for like getting the jobs, all my interviews, I had 3 interviews, and they were all on Zoom. So I think that was the main difference between COVID and non-COVID times. I thought I did better on Zoom. I think if I were in person, I would have been more nervous. But yeah.
My hospital was pretty hard hit as well. I think it started like the week before Thanksgiving or afterwards. I don't really remember. So my unit was clean, and our med surg unit was the one that was dedicated to COVID. But then occasionally we would start floating to help them out like every 3-4 weeks. And then after Thanksgiving, that's when it would become every week essentially. And then my unit essentially turned into COVID. We were one of the last hospitals in our area to get out of ratio because we had the union, and the worst I've had to deal with was 1-6. But I've only had that maybe a few times, but now we're back to ratio, and those patients are very, like COVID was very high acuity. So I'm actually grateful for the experience because, like I said, my unit was kind of like a DOU, and COVID in itself, like what Angelica was saying, they have very bad O2 stats. Maybe they need BiPAP, non-rebreathers. If they take it off, for me, I've personally seen a patient desat to 15, like in a matter of a few seconds before I had to code them. So like they're super high acuity. And so as a new grad, even though I'll be honest, it was hell for a bit, especially being so out of ratio, it taught good assessment skills and being able to continue to monitor your patients. So I think going forward, like as my unit goes back to normal slowly, because now I think we're clean again as of 2 days ago, it improved my assessment skills for the future for sure, and getting experience in that critical care area. So I think it was very helpful. And as for the transition in general, like Angelica too, like my 2 interviews were through networking, like with a clinical instructor or like through clinicals. Like I, networked with a few of the day shift nurses, and they were able to refer me to the manager and look at my resume, write me letters and all that stuff. So like I said before, those relationships are super important and will be helpful in the future, no matter what job you're applying to.
I saw Cole's question as well, talking about how definitely throughout all of nursing school, we're looking at advanced practice degrees, master degrees, things like that, of continued like higher education. And yes, the answer is yes, but I also, it's so interesting because I feel like it was such a steep learning curve just to get through nursing school. And then I started working, and now it's a steep learning curve to like learn how to be a nurse. That's not to say that to scare you, like they will teach you really well, but I feel like it's like what Angelica was talking about earlier, where it's a different feel when you are the one taking care of the patient, because you are in control, it's your license, and there's so much more like just trying to wrap my head around the critical thinking of just trying to figure out how to care for these patients. So yes, but I want to figure out how to be a bedside nurse first and then move on from that. But what's really cool is that I know on my unit, at least, there's been so many of like my preceptors or other folks on the unit who are like would precept me, but then also get to tell me like, oh, I'm in NP school right now. This is how it's going. And it also opened up my like eyes to just such like what a world nursing is that I had no clue of, like how many different areas you can go into, not just in terms of master's or higher degrees, but also within the hospital. Like you can get your, if you're in critical care, you can get your CCRN license, you can get like different certifications you can go through, and there's other like jobs within the hospital, like you could be a clinical educator or clinical nurse specialist, things like this. And so I don't know, for me, I just feel like I want to really try and nail down my foundation as a nurse, just flat out RN before I add any extra letters to that. Let me just figure that out first.
Sean, if I can add to that question, what would you say is more challenging, nursing school or the new grad program?
Ooh, good question. Parts of both have been challenging in their own ways, which is not an answer to your question, but I'll get there. I feel like nursing school, I just constantly felt this fear of failure. I don't know, it's just me, but like that's just how I always felt. And so it would add this extra stress of like incompetencies in any of the tests, where it's like, if I don't do well on this, I'll fail and that'll be the end of the world. I mean, it really wouldn't, but still, that's what I thought. But during the new grad program, it's a different kind of stress. Like it's difficult, and I would beat myself up for things, for like not knowing how to do things or not doing things fast enough or efficient enough or making mistakes or doing these different things wrong. And I think what was hitting harder was that I was like licensed, and I was technically supposed to know how to do that. And then I just didn't do it right. Because as a student, be like, okay, well, maybe I should have known how to do that, but it's not my license, like, sorry. But now it is. So there's an added level of stress, but not necessarily like people aren't looking for ways to fail me. It's not like I'm in a class per se. There's a vested interest when you're in a new grad program or when you're hired into a hospital, that whoever hired you really wants to keep you because they're putting a lot of money into training you. So they would really like all of the people they hire to do well. So the attitude is like, okay, if you're struggling, let's support you. Let's help you out with these skills. Let's give you a little bit longer in your orientation. Like whatever you need, a lot of times they'll just talk you through it and cater to those needs. So not that I didn't feel supported in nursing school, but I feel even more so because, I mean, even if it's just a money thing, these hospitals are putting money into me so that I can be a good nurse for their organization. So it would lose them money if I was doing badly. So even if it's purely not because they care about me, even though hopefully they do. So I would say it's challenging in terms of trying to wrap my mind around like, oh, this is my patient, and oh, I should be doing this, and eventually getting to the point where I feel like I can do it on my own. That was like a big hurdle because obviously as a nursing student, they wouldn't let us do things on our own. And so just sort of mentally getting to that point, but it's hard, but it's not without support. So that was a long way to answer that question. Sorry.
And I think with, for me, nursing school was hard and stressful because it felt very like this, like futile, not futile, but it's like the stuff I learned in nursing school. It's like, when are you going to ever write a leadership essay and use that stuff from leadership ever in your entire nursing career? You're not. So like, it felt like all the stuff we were doing was just like busy work. It was stressful, like for no reason. And it was hard in the sense that it felt like you can't win. Like they're just constantly like preying on your downfall and like making it so hard to get your degree. And it shouldn't be that hard. So that was the issue for me with nursing school, was it just was so, it felt like so hard for no reason. And then with being a new grad, it's like what Sean said, harder in a different way because you're actually like being the nurse and like the things you do actually matter. And there would be times when like, because I recently came off orientation where it's like I would feel so busy. I'd be like, oh man, like I'm so behind and everything. But like when I stop and think about it, at the end of the day, nothing really bad happened. I just am not good at time management yet. And like I'm getting better at that as I'm like going through it. But it's like if one little thing like deviates from my like routine, it's like, oh, it feels like I'm gonna get so behind on charting and everything. And there were times where I just wanted to like burst into tears, just like I just felt so overwhelmed. But like it goes away. Like you just have to like stay calm on the shift. And like all my preceptors, because on day shift I had one preceptor, but once I got to night shift and there was like COVID, I kind of just was with whoever like was like a good assignment for me that day. So I got to know a lot of people who I work with now, and like everyone's really helpful. And I just ask questions if I need help. And even the new grads who have been working there like for 6 months already, who are in the cohort before me, like they still ask questions and they still don't know everything. So that was really comforting to me. And of course, you're gonna have the days where you just go home and like cry because you just felt like you did such a bad job. But like in retrospect, that day wasn't that bad. I just felt bad like in the moment. So I definitely think like new grad year is hard. I would say it is harder than nursing school, but just in a different way because it's like it matters actually to you and you're actually doing something. And it feels like you have a purpose and a point to stuff you're doing. Like whereas in nursing school, you kind of have those days where you're like, why am I doing this? Like it is really hard mentally, I think, in nursing school.
I'm actually the opposite. I think I had a harder time in nursing school because everything was all new. And going into clinical, I was like, okay, I'll just get like as much experience as I can. But as I started working and during orientation, I felt like I knew a lot more than I thought I did coming out of school. So I'd say like Fullerton does prepare you in that aspect. I mean, you're still going to have learn a lot on the job, but there's a lot of people out there on the unit that's willing to help you if you just ask questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions, is what I'm trying to say. And then I also see Lillian says, asked what I've been doing for self-care. I've just got into this new routine every day, like even before work, I wake up like 15 minutes earlier, do like 3-5 minutes of meditation, do some stretching, just set like my intention for the day, go to work, COVID or non-COVID, and just like think positive, you know, go out for a run, don't stay in your house, like just, or go out for a walk, you don't have to run. But yeah, just get out of the environment you're usually in just so you can, yes, sleep and buy things online. That is a great one, Angelica. But yeah, anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, I feel like because at first I was like work, especially as a new grad, like it was pretty, which I kind of agree, like nursing school I felt like was a little bit harder, and like I don't feel that like anxiety going to work like I do like I did in nursing school and stuff like that. But like it's so exhausting, like physically, mentally, and like emotionally sometimes. So like I literally on my days off, like I'm like those like all the nurse memes that it's like you're just chilling on the couch like eating, and like I was feeling a little guilty, like I should be doing more productive things on my day off. But like whatever works for you. Like for me, I need like a couple days to just like relax, like nap, like watch TV, stuff like that. So if that works for you, great. Like whatever is going to get you through the day and like get you through like how hard it is to transition as a new nurse, like try not to feel guilty about it. You know, like if going, I don't know, like buying things helps you, whatever, like as long as it's not like super unhealthy, you know, but like do whatever you have to do to like get you through work, basically, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And that's such a good question, because I know I was just an absolute ball of stress. Like, sure, I had 3 shifts a week, but I was stressed out like 6 days a week. But something that I know some of the nurses on my unit were helping me with in terms of like, I guess, somewhat self-care, but just sort of calming myself down while I was on the shift, is that like they would tell me like, unless your patient is like actively coding, you have time. Like if it's like you have a bunch of things due in an hour, you still have an hour to do them. And so that really helped me mentally, just to know, okay, I can take a breath and just refocus. Because I noticed that when I would start thinking about all the things I had to do ahead of time, like I would forget things, or I would start something and then like not finish it, and then that's when I would like forget to unclamp, or like, you know, whatever. But like take that time, like unless you're you know, unless it's like you need to act immediately, like breathe, like during the shift. And then outside of work, I completely agree with everything everyone's been saying. And especially like, I know Vanessa was talking about like FaceTiming friends. If you have folks that you can talk to and debrief shifts with, like friends that you have from your cohort that you can just stay in touch with and say, hey, I've had this, like even just a vent and go through, oh my goodness, what a day, or celebrate your accomplishments. Like I felt like I did so well today, it was a breakthrough. Like I haven't stopped doing that. And I feel like that has been such a great way to sort of like reflect and try and like learn from things during my shift, and sort of get all of that pent up, whether it's stress, whether it's like disappointment in myself, or whether I'm on a high because I'm like, yay, things went well. I like having people that I can share that with was such a great way to sort of boost me emotionally, like mentally. So if you have folks that you can do that with, go for it. Or just like live tweet everything, whatever you need.
Okay, thank you guys for answering all these questions. We're nearing the end of our meeting. So before everyone leaves, Brittany, can you take a group picture?
Yeah. So if you guys want to turn on your cameras, if your cameras aren't on yet, and I'll do a countdown. And I'll do it twice since I have like two separate screens. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. All right, and then one more. Next one. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. All right, thanks, guys.
Oh, and before we end the meeting, I just want to announce the code for the meeting. It's FEB29, FEB29. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you guys. So next month we are having another alumni speak, and she's gonna give tips on how to be a competitive applicant. And we're also going to be presenting how to go about the nursing residency programs and how to prepare for NCLEX for next month. All right, so take care. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram or Twitter. We don't really use that anymore, but okay. Have a nice day. Thanks, guys.